Her flight took off at 6:27 p.m. At 6:29, I started erasing her. I didn't plan it. There was no cinematic score playing in the background, just the soft hum of the dishwasher and a wine glass still half full on the counter, lipstick stained and untouched. I wasn't angry. I wasn't crying. I was blank. The first thing I did was unplug the diffuser she always left running in the living room. It filled the place with eucalyptus and fake calm. I hated that thing. Then I took the framed photo from our trip to the San Juan Islands off the wall, opened the back, and slid the picture into the trash. She didn't even like that trip. Said the water made her dizzy. By 6:42, I'd found the folder in her nightstand. It was the only drawer she kept locked. For years I thought it was where she kept old journals, maybe letters from her mom. Turned out it was where she hid her new life. Inside, 2 sets of keys to a condo I didn't know we owned, a separate debit card linked to an account I was never told about, and a handwritten list titled, "Things to say if he asks questions." The list. That's when the nausea started. Say it's a wellness retreat. Tell him it's short notice. Guilt will work. Reassure him it's just a break, not a breakup. Do not tell him about Milo. Wait until after. Wait until after what? I couldn't even tell if I was breathing at that point. My hands were sweating so badly the paper nearly tore. The next line made everything worse. Once I'm back, frame the talk as compassionate but final. Compassionate but final. That's how she planned to end our marriage, like it was a quarterly performance review. She boarded that plane thinking I would wait here, like some fragile bookmark in her old life, while she frolicked through her new chapter with a man named Milo. Milo. What is that? A barista? A life coach? A yoga instructor with a man bun and a vape? I couldn't scream. I couldn't even sit down. Instead, I started opening tabs. Her email, her cloud storage, her location history, everything she forgot to log out of in her rush to catch the 6:27. And that's when the full picture came into view. This wasn't her first trip. It wasn't even her second. It was her 7th. 7 trips, spread across 2 years, all labeled as conferences or team strategy weekends. She'd been logging these fake retreats like tax deductions. But the photos she kept privately? They were anything but professional. A balcony selfie in Barcelona. A beach kiss in Tulum. A birthday cake with Happy 35th, my queen, written in mango glaze. I never even got a cupcake. I closed the laptop. And I laughed. Loud. Like I was in on the joke now. If she thought she was going to walk back through that door, sit me down, and deliver some tidy speech she workshopped with her therapist and side boyfriend, she had no idea who she was coming home to. I didn't need to hurt her. I didn't need to scream or break dishes or post dramatic rants online. All I needed was time. And while she was sipping cocktails under a fake name and a fake smile, I was about to turn her return into something unforgettable. She said we'd talk when she got back. I made sure she never would. The condo I didn't know about? Yeah, I went there. It was only an hour's drive, tucked away in a part of town we used to mock for being too sterile. Kaylin always said she hated that modern gray-on-gray aesthetic, like living inside a hospital waiting room, she'd joke. So imagine my face when I stood at the doorstep of Unit 4C, staring at a matte black door with a golden welcome sign and 2 ceramic mugs sitting on the window ledge. One that said M and the other K. Like some twisted monogrammed punch to the gut. I didn't even knock. I used the key from her locked drawer. Slipped right in like I belonged there. And I guess in a way, I did. Because every dollar that paid for this place came from our joint account. But nothing inside felt like it belonged to me. Not the minimalist leather couch. Not the framed photo of a dog I'd never met. Not even the bedroom. God, especially not the bedroom. It smelled like vanilla and betrayal. Her robe was hanging on the door like she lived there. Because she did live there. Part of her, at least. Maybe the real part. The closet had his things. His shirts. His shoes. I found a drawer full of protein bars and expensive headphones. Definitely not hers. And on the nightstand, a book with a sticky note on top. Her handwriting again. Chapter 14 made me think of us. Read it tonight? I sat on the bed and stared at that note for maybe 5 minutes, just letting the humiliation crawl over my skin like fire ants. I wasn't even angry. I was exhausted. Tired of making excuses. Tired of hoping she'd magically become the person I thought she was. And now, seeing how carefully she curated this alternate life, I realized she didn't change overnight. She just stopped hiding it. Back at home, I did something I never thought I'd do. I called her older sister, Marin. We hadn't spoken much since the wedding, mostly because Marin had this uncanny ability to see through Kaylin's charm. She was blunt, messy, allergic to sugarcoating. I always got the sense that she didn't think Kaylin deserved me. Turns out, she was right. When I told her what I'd found, without drama, just the facts, she went silent. And then she said, "It's Miles, isn't it?" I froze. "You knew?" "Not everything," Marin said, "but enough to know something wasn't right. She used to stay with me sometimes after those retreats. Said she needed to decompress before coming back home. I never pushed." "You never thought to tell me?" "I thought it wasn't my place," she whispered. "But maybe I was just scared to find out how much she lied to both of us." I didn't yell. I didn't blame her. Because deep down, I knew the signs were always there. I just chose not to see them. And that's on me. That's what hurts the most. I wasn't just betrayed. I was complicit in my own erasure. But that was about to change. Because the next thing I did was take every shred of proof, emails, texts, photos, even that mug, and compiled them into a private online folder. One I titled K.W. Full Disclosure. And then I sent one anonymous email to her HR department, attaching just one file. A photo of Kaylin and Milo in a private villa, timestamped during a week she claimed to be at a mandatory compliance seminar. I didn't sign my name. I didn't write a single word. Because this time, the silence would do the talking. She thought she had time to rehearse her speech. She thought I'd sit and wait for her grand confession. But I was already gone. And when she landed, when she turned on her phone and saw everything unraveling, her carefully constructed double life would start cracking like cheap glass. And that would only be the beginning. She landed at 7:16 a.m. I knew the exact time because I'd watched her flight status all night, not out of longing, but calculation. While she was cruising over the Gulf of Mexico with her soulmate of the month, sipping champagne, she probably said she didn't like to justify the indulgence. I was setting fires, quietly. The kind of fires that don't leave ashes, just absence. By the time her plane touched down, the email I'd sent to her HR department had been opened 14 times. I knew because I used tracking. It wasn't revenge. It was documentation. I didn't want her fired. I wanted her confronted, with receipts. Let her explain the luxury resort selfies when she claimed she was stuck in breakout sessions about digital onboarding. But that wasn't the only plan in motion. At 2:47 a.m., I called our bank and initiated the transfer of my half of everything from the joint account to a personal one she didn't know existed. It wasn't petty, it was protective. I didn't want to vanish with her money. I just didn't want her using mine to pay for beach massages and overpriced passionfruit cocktails. Especially not with him. By sunrise, I had erased myself from every place that mattered. Canceled our shared subscriptions. Took my name off the lease. Moved into a temporary sublet across the city. Small, ugly, and perfect. I even set up a new phone number. And the best part? I left no note. No warning. No clues. Just silence. Cold, deliberate silence. You see, when someone plans to abandon you, they expect resistance. They rehearse how to handle your tears, your shouting, your heartbreak. But when you disappear first, without sound or spectacle, you take all their power with you. And that's exactly what I wanted her to feel when she walked through our door, the echo. She called at 7:44. I didn't answer. She texted at 7:46. "Hey babe, I'm home. Can we talk?" I read it. Locked my phone. Let her sit in the void. By 8:12, the texts turned panicked. "Where are you? Why isn't the Wi-Fi working? Did you cancel Netflix? Are you okay? What is happening? I don't understand." At 8:31, she called again. 5 times. Then 6. Then 12. At 9:05, she sent a voice memo. I didn't listen. Not then. Not yet. Instead, I turned on the Bluetooth speaker in my shoebox apartment and played an old playlist she hated. Indie folk and piano ballads. Songs she said made her feel trapped in a rainy basement. It felt poetic. I lay on the futon, eyes closed, letting her spiral alone while I took back something I hadn't touched in years, peace. But I'll admit it, there was still a weight in my chest. Not love, not hope, just the ache of detachment. When you invest years into someone who builds a secret exit while smiling in your face, it rewires your brain. Makes you question whether anything you lived through was real or just a background track to their double life. I knew she'd eventually come looking. And when she did, when she realized I hadn't just walked out but dismantled the entire stage, we'd see who really controlled the narrative. She wanted to talk when she got back? Fine. She could start by explaining why his toothbrush was in the upstairs bathroom drawer. Because I made sure she'd find that too. She showed up at my temporary apartment 2 days later. I heard the knock before I saw her face. 3 sharp taps. The same rhythm she used when she'd come home from work and forget her keys. For a second, my gut tightened like some forgotten reflex, like I was still the guy who'd rushed to open the door. But I didn't move. I just watched her through the peephole, arms crossed, sunglasses on, her mouth drawn in a tight little line like she was the one who deserved answers. She knocked again, harder, then pulled out her phone and started calling. My new number didn't ring, of course. It never would. I let her stand there for 5 minutes. Long enough for her to shift her weight, start pacing, check the hallway for neighbors like she was worried about looking crazy. That was the thing with Kaylin. She never liked losing control, especially not publicly. She was always careful to manage her image. But this wasn't her stage anymore. Eventually, she left. But that wasn't the end. She started emailing me. At first, it was confusion. I don't understand what's going on. Please talk to me. Can we fix this? Then came the frustration. You're being immature. You didn't even give me a chance to explain. This isn't how adults handle problems. I read every word and still said nothing. But I wasn't just being silent. I was building something. You see, in the folder of lies I found that night, the secret condo key, the itinerary, the emails, there was one email she must have saved by accident. It was from a lawyer, a divorce lawyer, sent months ago, titled, Initial Consultation, Asset Separation Strategy. The thread was long, detailed, clinical. She had already mapped out how to dismantle our life together, even listed which furniture pieces she wanted and which credit cards she'd let me keep. She was going to blindside me, hit me with the talk, and then walk me through the dismantling like some HR termination meeting. No negotiation. Just, here's what's happening. I hope we can stay friends. So I got my own lawyer. I handed over everything. The second department, the money transfers, the emails, the time-stamped affair, and the message she stupidly sent to Milo that read, he's emotionally weak. He'll cave. I'll just play the you deserve better card, and he'll probably apologize. I didn't cave. I didn't apologize. Instead, I got ahead of it, filed first, and had the paperwork served to her at the job she no longer worked at, since, as I'd later learn, HR had not appreciated the dishonesty. She wasn't fired, technically, but let's just say her position was reevaluated. A week later, Marin, her sister, called me. I don't know what you did, she said, but she's unraveling. Good, I replied. Not good, Marin said. She keeps saying she didn't think you'd actually leave. She thought she'd just reset the rules. You were supposed to fall apart, not disappear. That hit me harder than I expected, because she was right. For years, I'd been the one chasing harmony, avoiding conflict, always being understanding. The guy who flinched when she sighed too hard. But silence taught me something. Silence changed me. Kaylin wasn't prepared for a version of me that stopped begging, and she sure as hell wasn't ready for the final clause in the divorce paperwork. The one that said she couldn't claim a single cent from the new account I'd built, because it was funded after the day she left for her retreat. That little trip? It cost her more than a weekend of lies. It cost her the life she thought she had on standby. She finally cornered me in a parking lot behind my old gym, of all places. I'd gone there just to grab my things from the locker I forgot to empty after vanishing from our shared life. I was unlocking my car when I heard the sharp click of heels. She looked different, frazzled, thinner maybe, her hair tied in a loose bun like she'd thrown herself together in the car. But her eyes? Still calculating. Still that quiet panic hidden behind manufactured concern. She started talking before I even said a word. No greeting. No, how are you? Just straight into defense mode, like she was running from a fire only she could see. You just disappeared, she said. You can't do that. You can't just vanish and leave me to. To what? I cut her off. To clean up the mess you made? She froze. It was the first time I'd spoken to her since she got back from that trip. The words tasted like rust in my mouth. I hadn't realized how angry I still was until I saw her standing there, looking for the script she used to manipulate me. But there was no script for this version of me. I didn't plan it like that, she said quickly. It wasn't about him. I just needed clarity. Clarity. I scoffed. Is that what they're calling betrayal now? Is that what chapter 14 was about in that book you left at the love nest? She flinched like I'd slapped her, and I'll admit, part of me felt good about it. Not proud, not noble, just finally visible. Like I'd stepped out of the fog she'd wrapped me in for years. I was going to talk to you, she said quietly. That was the whole point of the trip. I needed to make sure I was doing the right thing. No, I said. You needed distance so you could practice what you were going to say, so you could control how I reacted. You didn't want a conversation. You wanted a performance. She looked down then, finally, like she knew it was true, and that's when I realized she hadn't come to apologize. She'd come to negotiate, to salvage some version of the dynamic where she still held the upper hand, where she could spin the story and make herself the victim of my silence. I lost everything, she whispered. The job, the second place, even Milo. He bailed the second things got messy. Milo. I laughed bitterly. You mean the guy you thought was your backup life plan? Shocking that he disappeared when there was no beach and no secrets to hide behind. She stepped closer, tried to soften her tone, like that would work now. Can we at least talk? I feel like I don't even know this version of you. That's the point, I said flatly. You don't. And I got in my car and left her standing there, arms wrapped around herself like she was the one who got abandoned. But I wasn't done yet. Later that night, I uploaded everything, anonymously, of course, to a shared drive I knew her friend group had access to. The photos, the itinerary, the messages, not out of revenge, just honesty. I was tired of being the villain in the version of the story she was probably already telling them. Let them see the full script. Let them decide if she was brave or just cruel. That weekend, her Instagram went dark. Comments turned off. No updates. No quotes about healing or empowerment. Just digital silence. The same silence she once used as a weapon against me. Now, it was her cage. A few days after the parking lot confrontation, I got a message from one of her friends, Andrea. We hadn't spoken much before. She was always one of Kaylin's wine night girls, the type who posted filtered charcuterie boards and called every minor inconvenience a trauma. But this message wasn't casual. It started with, "Hey, I just want you to know I saw the drive. I'm so sorry." I didn't respond, but I read every word. She said they'd all believed Kaylin's version at first, that I'd shut down emotionally, grown cold, become distant, that the trip was a last-ditch effort to decide if she could keep fighting for us, that I left her blindsided and broken, that I erased her life overnight. But once they saw the receipts, once the screenshots and itinerary and call logs filled in the missing pieces, everything shifted. Andrea told me they'd had a group dinner, and Kaylin showed up late, flustered, and defensive. Apparently, someone asked about the beach photos. Someone else asked about Milo. She'd stumbled, tried to cry, claimed it was complicated, but no one reached to comfort her. She was losing control of her story. And for someone like Kaylin, that's worse than losing money, friends, even love. She didn't care about being forgiven. She cared about being understood on her terms. But now the story had gaps she couldn't fill, and no one was rushing to cover for her anymore. Later that week, I heard through Marin that Kaylin moved out of our old place. She packed everything into a storage unit, deleted her socials, and stopped showing up at mutual events. She told people she was taking time to heal, but the truth was she couldn't face a world that no longer gave her the benefit of the doubt. Meanwhile, I was quiet, not happy, not yet, but calm in a way I hadn't felt in years. There was no grand revenge, no explosive confrontation, no viral moment, just silence, slow and strategic, swallowing her narrative whole. I didn't have to scream to be heard. I just had to remove myself from her script. And in doing so, I took away everything she depended on, my reaction, my forgiveness, my emotional labor. I thought that would be the end of it. I really did. But then something strange happened. I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. Inside, folded neatly, were two things: a Polaroid from our first apartment, a photo I didn't even know she still had, and a single line scribbled in blue ink beneath it. I don't know who I was back then, but I liked who you were. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even a request. It was a crack. In her armor. In the mask she'd worn for years. And for a split second, I almost softened. Almost. But then I remembered what it felt like to sit alone on the edge of our bed, holding the evidence of her betrayal while she sipped drinks in a city I wasn't even invited to know about. And I knew exactly what to do with that letter. I folded it again, precisely, and slid it into the same envelope that once held her divorce lawyer's first draft. Then I dropped the whole thing into the trash, quietly, like she had never existed. She said we'd talk when she got back. Too late. The conversation happened without her. It wasn't revenge. Not really. At least not in the way people think of it. I didn't torch her car, or ruin her career, or expose her to her family in some dramatic explosion. The truth did all the heavy lifting for me. I just let it breathe. And that's what destroyed her more than anything. Realizing she no longer had control of the version of me she thought she'd left behind. I stopped reacting. That was my power. I didn't fight. Didn't beg. Didn't give her the satisfaction of closure or chaos. I just became unavailable. And in doing so, I became unforgettable. She couldn't place me in her box anymore. Couldn't spin me into the sad, confused husband clinging to her shadow. I was gone, but not erased. Present in absence. Echoing in every room she used to control. I knew she was still watching. One of her friends told me she'd made a burner Instagram. That she kept checking my new account from it. Not liking anything, of course. Just watching. Studying. Wondering how I could move on without broadcasting my heartbreak like a soap opera. It was driving her mad, because Kaylin needed to be the star of every story, even the ones that ended without her. And now, I was living a life she couldn't narrate. Funny thing is, I didn't even move on in the way she feared. I wasn't dating. I wasn't suddenly thriving. I was still broken in places she'd never see. Still questioning everything. But I was rebuilding, not to prove something to her, but to reclaim something I forgot I had, the right to peace. Then came the final blow, and I didn't even see it coming. One night, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I would have let it go to voicemail. But something told me to pick up. A tired voice said, "Is this Elias?" My full name, not the nickname she always used. I said yes, cautiously. There was a pause, and then a woman introduced herself as a paralegal from a law firm Kaylin had apparently consulted months earlier. She told me there had been a mix-up with a document I needed to sign to finalize a property release. It wasn't a trick. It was real. But what struck me wasn't the paperwork. It was what she said at the end, almost like a side note. She didn't go through with it, by the way. The divorce filing. She dropped it after your response. She just walked away. And that's when I understood everything. Kaylin never wanted a clean break. She wanted control over the ending. She wanted to hurt me, reshape me, and then wait for me to chase her down, crying, apologizing, fighting for a chance to fix what she broke. But when I didn't show up, when I didn't scream or plead or even care enough to reply, that's when she dropped everything. Not because she was healing, but because without my reaction, the game wasn't fun anymore. Silence wasn't weakness. It was a mirror, and she couldn't stand what she saw in it. The house was sold. The accounts were closed. The friends had chosen their sides, and most of them didn't pick hers. She was adrift, unrecognizable even to herself. And I was still scarred, yes. Still bitter in moments I didn't like to admit. But I was free. I'd won. Not loudly. Not vengefully. But completely. It's strange how quiet peace can be. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. It just kind of settles. Like the way fog lifts after weeks of gray, and you suddenly realize you can see the sky again. That's what it felt like, waking up one morning and not immediately thinking about her. I didn't rush to fill the silence she left. I didn't jump into some rebound or post cryptic quotes online. I just started noticing myself again. The version of me I had shelved for years to keep her happy. I went back to hiking on Sundays. Started painting again, badly, but it felt good. I even adopted a rescue dog. A goofy mutt named Felix who thinks cardboard boxes are enemies and snores louder than any human I've ever met. He was a mess, like me, but we figured it out together. One afternoon, I was sitting at a coffee shop near the university, one I never went to while we were married because she said it was too loud and full of weirdos. But that day, it was perfect. The sun was low, people were laughing around me, and for the first time in years, I wasn't scanning the room for judgment or reading between lines that weren't there. I looked up and saw a woman sketching in a notebook. Not with some look-at-me vibe, just calm, focused. She caught me staring, smirked, and said, "You're totally judging my terrible shading, aren't you?" And I laughed, really laughed, Not the polite kind I used to offer during tense dinners or awkward conversations. Just pure, unexpected laughter. Her name was Bryn. She was nothing like Kaylin. She didn't care about curated appearances or image management. She asked real questions, listened without interrupting. And when I told her, weeks later, about everything that had happened, she didn't offer pity. Just a quiet, "Well, you're here now. That's something." She was right. I had spent so long grieving a version of love that was never real, thinking silence was a punishment instead of a choice. But that silence gave me room to rebuild, not for revenge, not to impress anyone, but for me. Kaylin never reached out again. Not directly. I heard through someone that she moved to Denver. Started over. I wish I could say I hated her, or that I still needed answers. But I don't. Not anymore. Because she said we'd talk when she got back. And maybe we never did. But I finally had the most important conversation of all, the one with myself. And I decided to stay.